You heard me talking here about specifically the defensive line of Texas and how Ohio State's going to have to attack them. The defensive line is supposed to be their strength of their team.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see how Ohio State is going to have that much of a problem with them with the way they've been calling plays. I mean, what do you think?
I would tend to agree. I believe that even though Texas defensive line they're very fast. They have elite edge rusher as a freshman, as they do receiver in Simmons. But regardless of that, like I talked about it yesterday on the Scarlet and Blue show about how Chip Kelly and Ryan Day have, used Ryan Day's philosophy with the scheme of Chip Kelly and how they've been able to move the offensive line around. They've been able to get them moving, whether it be on the boundaries in order to get Will Howard out there and passing on the run out of the pocket. More gap scheme, more pulling, I think. And of course, that's some of it's probably just, dressing on the salad, but it's working. It's working right now. And I think that, I think we could rest on knowing now that we've gone against two of the best, easily two top 10 defensive lines in college football, and they've done well. Yeah. And they got better the second time. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'm worried. Is it something to watch? Of course it is. But it's not something that I'm really worried about.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And, you mentioned also for Ohio State basketball fans, it's 10-9 at the under 16 timeout, here in the first half. But
we'll leave my basketball fandom out of this. I don't worry about it.
Yeah, I figured I'd give some updates here while that's happening. Hey, you know what? Beat the Ducks on the court just like we beat them on the field. That's what I said. So
yeah, there you go.
That'd be nice. But, the offensive line, it's giving them a lot of credit because I did rewatch the game last night, and I specifically focused on the offensive line because I wanted to see how well they were doing in the trenches, how they were moving guys around. And they did a really darn good job of pushing Oregon back at almost every single play, specifically in the run game. That's really where I was focused on, and I focused on the guards. I really wanted to see how Cyril Veld, Shabola, and Luke Montgomery did in that rotation.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple plays that I thought, could have gone better, but overwhelmingly, I mean, A+ for all three of them. They played great. They were pulling effectively. They were able to, they were quite frankly able to do what they needed to do to get guys back in the secondary and also protect Will Howard in the passing game. So they did their job.
No, most definitely. And again, there's been guys on this offensive line that have been shining as of late. We've mentioned Luke Montgomery plenty of times now. Just, the play he's given this team has been exceptional. Even on the right side, I mean, the right side of the offensive line before this season even started was a point of conversation for everyone in Buckeye Nation. Throughout the season, they've gotten better, and it's nice to see.
Yeah. I know I've given Justin Fry a fair amount of grief on the show, but he deserves a lot of credit for being able to get those guys together. And I've actually been very pleased with what he's been able to do with these guys. And I honestly have hope for more in the future. I do. And I think how his performance has been with the offensive line over the last 2 or 3 games, I think it saved his job, quite frankly. I think he's coming back. So we got a comment here. What is the best 4-game stretch of the year? That's a good question, Aaron. That's a really good question. The best 4-game sustained stretch, I would probably have to say it wasn't. The thing is, you can't really pick any of those games early just because of the competition that they had. It's not like they were playing, Texas every week. In my opinion, the best 4-game stretch is the stretch where it was the Penn State through IU game. So Penn State, Purdue, Northwestern, IU. That's, they beat Penn State 2013 at Penn State, shut out Purdue 45-0, beat Northwestern 31-7 at Wrigley Field, and then took down a top 5 Indiana team again, 38-15. So they played 2 top 5 teams in those 4 games. That, to me, is their best 4-game stretch. What do you say?
Without a doubt. I think that's the easy one to point to because there's not a loss in between there, of course. I thought that with all the struggles we were having, starting like with Penn State, coming up that Nebraska game where the offensive line was not shored up. It most definitely wasn't against Penn State. That was Donovan Jackson's first game playing left tackle. Excuse me, and going against Abdul Carter is not the best first matchup for a guy who hasn't played tackle since high school. But I think that was a very important stretch for that offensive line at that time, just in seeing like, what they could do, and especially for Donovan Jackson. And just whereas right now, I mean, I don't think I'm being crazy by saying this. He's playing like he's already an All-American guard. He's playing like an All-American tackle right now. So
he's playing great, and I think you mentioned this on one of the previous shows. He's made himself a lot of money being able to switch over to left tackle and show how versatile he is, because we know how much the NFL loves guys who can swing from position to position, and for him to be able to do this, it's pretty darn impressive. So I know we've talked a lot about a lot of different aspects.
I'm sorry, you touched on Carson Beck, right?
Yes, I did. Yeah, but let me hear your thoughts on Carson Beck.
Stay the hell away.
I agree. That's what I said.
And I highly doubt. I mean, Berm came out and said that. I'm sure you said that.
I know. Berm said that wasn't going to happen, but he also said the same thing about Sayin.
He did.
How that happened.
He did.
So
well, we are all allowed to be wrong. We are all allowed to be wrong. I am going to take Berm for his word on this, and I just don't see.
It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense to me, to be honest with you. And look, I'll
tell you where it makes sense. I'll tell you where it makes sense.
Well, it's because I don't have experience.
Well, that's for sure. I think where it helps, I think we'll both agree that if Carson Beck was to come, Julian Sayin is out. He's leaving.
I think you're probably right.
Then I think you know that you're banking all in on Tavian.
I don't think it would be well. You know what? I won't say that. I was about to say I don't think it would be smart to just bank on the true freshman like that. But you might be doing it anyway, because next year, right now, or at least as of right now, the plan is to have the winner between St. Clair and Sayin be the starter next year.
Right.
So, and I know you missed this point. Beck did have the worst collection of receivers in P4. I mean, his guys led the division in drops.
That's fair.
So you surround him with guys like Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Smith, Brandon Innes, Mylan Graham. Like, he can't be much worse. But I didn't like his decision making. He had some bad decisions. And that's what concerns me the most. For a guy who's played as much football as he has, a guy who's won a national championship, you would have thought he would have made more refined decisions. And I thought, in all honesty, I thought there were a few games where he almost threw him out of them. I mean, that Georgia Tech game, he was making some poor decisions. I understand the offensive line didn't play super well in that game either. But, and obviously both games against Texas, he gets hurt in the first half. I'm not going to, the first half he didn't look good. Let's face it. I'm really hoping Miami just takes him off our hands and we don't have to worry about it, quite frankly.
That would be beautiful. That would be beautiful.
Yeah. So, back to what I was saying about the Texas game, there's one aspect that I want to talk to you about that we haven't covered yet.